Hi, 7th graders. This is Miss Wentland here again to help you with your next distance learning assignment. Last week's assignment had you decoding a picture and being able to understand and interpret it. Part of decoding or breaking apart numbers is to look at the numbers that go into it, and those are called numbers that they are divisible by. So we're going to take a look at some rules that could help us look at a number and easily know, does a smaller number go into it? Those basic whole numbers like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 12. We're going to look at some rules that would help us to be easily able to determine if any of those numbers go into a larger number when we break apart or decode a number. Today we're going to focus on the divisibility rules of 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to look at the rules, talk about some examples, decide if certain numbers are divisible by those numbers, and then in the end you're going to do a practice sheet on your own, only focusing on the rules for 2, 3, 4, and 5 at this time. So if I look at my notes over here, it says a divisibility rule, and this first one is the divisibility rule for the number 2. So it says, in order for a number to be divisible by 2, meaning 2 goes in it evenly, nothing left over, no remainder, the number has to be even. And to be even, it has to end in a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. So that could be any number. It could be a number as simple as 42. It could be a number like 1086. So long as that last number is an even number, then I know it's divisible by 2. It could even be 1,786,342. And because that ends in a 2, an even number, we know that it is divisible by 2. So now I'm going to take this idea of this rule, and I'm going to look at this list of numbers and decide which one of these are divisible by 2. So again, I'm looking at the last number of each of these. The last number here is 4. 4 is an even number, so 2 goes into it. The last number here is a 0. If I look over here, 0 is an even number, so therefore I know that 2 goes into it. As opposed to the third number, which ends in a 5. 5 is not an even number, so 2 would not go into it. So I'm just going to leave it blank at this point. If we're thinking ahead to the next two, it ends in a 6, which is even, and another one that ends in 0, which is even. So those four numbers are divisible by 2, meaning if I divided them by 2, I get a nice even number to work with. Now the next number on our list is learning the divisibility rule for 3. 3 talks about the sum. Think about, what does it mean to find the sum of a number? The sum of a number means to add up, and this is the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. So for example, if I give you the number 186, the digits are a 1, an 8, and a 6. And if I add all of those together, 1 plus 8 plus 6, I get the number 15. Does 3 go into 15 evenly? If I do 15 divided by 3, do I get a nice number? Yes, I get a nice number of 5. So therefore, I know that 3 also goes into 186. So again, it's the sum of the digits. So I'm adding each part of the number. So if I move over to my example over here, I'm maybe going to write this kind of down below. So for this first one here, I'm going to add 6 plus 3 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. And 11 plus 4 is 15. Does 3 divide evenly into 15? It does. We saw it up there in the other example as well. So that means that 3 would go into 6,324 if I simply add the sum of the digits. Let's try the next one on here. So I'm going to add 7 plus 2 plus 0 plus 0, and that adds to 9. Does 3 go into 9 evenly? Yes, it does. It goes in 3 times, so I therefore know that 3 will go into 7,200. Again, I'm adding the digits. So if I look now at 475, 4 plus 7 is 11, and 11 plus 5 is 16. Does 3 go into 16 evenly? Nope. So I'm going to leave it blank. Okay? In the next one, I'm going to add 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 9 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. Does 3 go into 18? Yes. Goes in 6 times. The last one, 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 9 is 18. 18 plus 7 is 25, and another 2 would be 27. Does 3 go into 27 evenly? Yes, it does. So I'm going to check off, hey, works for that one. Okay. That is a divisibility rule for 3. Again, it's looking at the sum of the digits, adding them up. So it's good to think about what are the totals of the digit and note that somewhere. And that's actually going to come into play later on. So it's worth your while to write it down somewhere for each of them. What is the sum of the digits? The next one on here is for the number 4. The number the number formed by the last 2 digits is divisible by 4. So think of your multiples of 4. If I gave you a number like 2,716, the number formed by the last 2 digits is 16. Does 4 go into 16 evenly? Yes. So then it would go into that entire number, no matter how big it is. I could do a number like 1,836,420. The number formed by the last 2 digits is a 20. Is that a multiple of 4? Yes, it is. So therefore, I know 4 goes into that number evenly if I were to divide it out. So if I look at our examples, the number formed by in the first problem by the last 2 digits is 24. Does 4 go into 24 evenly? Yep. So then I know 4 goes into that number. This gets a little tricky because the number formed by the last 2 digits here is 0. Does 4 go into 0 evenly? Some of you might say yes, some of you might say no. Technically, 4 goes into 0 times, and I guess that is an even amount. So we're going to say yes, that 4 goes into 7,200. Here we have 75. So I have to think about, does 4 go into 75 evenly? If I wasn't quite sure about that, I could divide it out. So I could take and do, like, I'm going to write it over here, 75 divided by 4. 4 goes into it once, which is 4, and I get 35. And 4 does not go into 35 evenly. So I know that it's not going to go into 75, which means it's not going to go into 475. Okay? But now I'm going to try the number 96 and take a look at, does 4 go into 96? Well, if I do my math, 96 divided by 4. 4 goes into 9 twice, which is 8. Subtract the 1, bring down the 6. 4 goes into 16 4 times, which works out perfect. So yes, 4 goes into 96, so 4 goes into that entire number. The last one, what is the number formed by the last 2 digits? It's a 20. Does 4 go into 20? Yep. So therefore it goes into all of them. Starting to wonder if that 475 has any number that goes into it. Well, let's look at the last divisibility rule for today. The last divisibility rule is for 5, and it says the last digit is either a 5 or a 0. So it's kind of like the even one, only this time there's only 2 possible digits that could be at the end, a 5 or a 0. while 6,324 has a 4, so it's not divisible by 5. 7,200 has a 0 that we're looking for, so it is divisible by 5. 475 has a 5 like we're looking for, so it's divisible by 5. This one has a 6, so it's not divisible by 5. And the last one has a 0, which is one of our options over here, so we know that it is also divisible by 5. Those are the first 4 rules we're going to focus on today. Hopefully you have an understanding of how each of them works. Remember that you can always re-listen to the video if you're not quite sure about it. Because what you're going to do next is in Google Classroom, there is posted a worksheet that looks something like this. However, it might not have the blue because that's what we're going to come to and work on tomorrow. You're only focusing on the 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if I were you, I'd go back in our video and I would read and listen to how did we decide if a number was divisible by 2, and then I would go down this whole column and check if it's divisible by 2 or not. Then I would re-listen again to what's the divisibility rule for 3, and then I would go through and do this whole column of 3s, and then go on to 4 and to 5, focusing on one number and looking to see do each of those numbers go in there, redoing the rule over and over again. Next day, tomorrow, we'll focus on 6, 9, 10, and 12 and being able to figure out the divisibility rules for them and understand them. So head into Google Classroom, find this worksheet, and work through and put a check mark in each box for which a number is divisible by it. Thank you.